Right off Ignacio Valley Road lies the Shadelands Ranch Historical Museum. The museum showcases many of the historical artifacts of Walnut Creek and serves as the foundation for the Walnut Creek Historical Society. Founded in 1967 by members of the Walnut Creek Women's Club, the Walnut Creek Historical Society has developed into a vital organization that engages with the community and city government to carry out its mission to preserve and interpret local history.
The Shadelands Ranch Museum House was built by Mr. Hiram Penniman. Mr. Penniman came to this area in 1853 and squatted on the land for a number of years. He eventually built this house. This is the last house that was built on the Shadelands property. Not the first, but the last. And it was constructed in 1903. It's kind of interesting in that this is the only place was built by a pioneer from 1853. This house then was constructed from 1902 to 1903. It was really built as a residence for his daughter, Mary Penniman, who, of all the Penniman children, was the one who became the ranch manager and was her father's business assistant. The others had other places to go and things to do. At the time that the construction on this house was begun, Hiram Penniman was 78 years old, and he realized that he would not, of course, be around forever, and so he really wanted to have a very nice place for his wife and daughter to live. The cost of the house at the time it was built was $7,200, which seems like a bargain these days, and the total square footage of the house is 3,440 square feet. Hiram Penniman, his wife Carrie Penniman, and daughter Mary moved into the house in April 1903. Hiram died in 1907, and daughter Mary died in 1909. Hiram's youngest daughter, Bessie, married Albert Johnson in November of 1896 at the family home in Oakland, California. And Bessie and Albert would be jet setters if they were alive today. After Carrie died, Bessie Penniman was the sole owner of the ranch. And she was assisted by her husband, Albert Johnson, who got very, very interested in the ranch itself, the kinds of crops that were to be planted, and the business end of the whole ranch. In 1921, he hired a family, Mr. Edwin Moyer, his wife, and they had 2 young children, and they moved in 1921. The house was then wired for electricity late 1921 or early 1922, and the Moyer family then managed the ranch from that date, from 1921 until 1949. Albert was quite instrumental in getting the walnut trees planted, because most of the walnut trees were planted after World War I. In 1943, Bessie was killed in an automobile accident. Soon after she died, Albert found out that he had cancer. And so he was, being a businessman, he was very able to manage his assets, and he formed in 1947 the Gospel Foundation, and we have the document signed by the judge saying that all of his worldly possessions would put into the Gospel Foundation. And he formed the Gospel Foundation with the idea that the income generated by the foundation, the monies that were realized from it, could be used to further the projects and the well-being of people less fortunate than himself. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way, because the Gospel Foundation was spending more money than it was earning. And one of the assets of the foundation, of course, was the Shadelands Ranch. Because, so that is why by the 1960s and 70s, they had to begin to sell off the ranch property. In the meantime, after Albert died, the foundation and his estate was managed by Mary Litticoat. One of the first deals that she made, or first business deals that she made in this area, was regarding this very house. It was an agreement with the Mount Diablo School District and the Cerebral Palsy organization here in Contra Costa County to provide schooling for children with cerebral palsy. And so they rented the house for $1 a year. And of course the children were pretty severely handicapped and had braces on their legs and arms and so forth. So they could not go upstairs. So they, in order to make more space for the children, they enclosed the front porch by putting windows between the pillars of the front porch of this house. And the school actually opened in October of 1952, and it closed in August of 1956, because in those 4 years they went from a beginning student population of 5 to 27, in which, so obviously there was not enough space here for that many people. So the Mount Diablo School District built its own school, which is they named Shadelands School, and it's still open today. It's located near the district office out in Concord. After the school closed in 1956, the house was empty for many years. And then in the 1960s, because of financial reasons, they started to realize that they were going to have to sell off the ranch property, and which they did in a very systematic manner. Got closer to 1970, there was a lot of controversy about the house itself, what was going to happen to the house. And so in 1967, the Women's Club of Walnut Creek, under their president, Mrs. Melvin Jory, formed the Walnut Creek Historical Society. And the idea being that they wanted to preserve this house, all of the people to come in the future years. And they were successful in doing that. October 2nd, 1972, legislation was introduced that the city of Walnut Creek would accept the donation from the Gospel Foundation, the donation being this house and 1.5 acres. Interesting time, and I remember there was a lot of talk in the newspaper about, you know, moving the house, tearing it down. Thank goodness didn't do any of those things. And then even after it was opened as a museum, it was suggested that the house be moved to Heather Farm Park. And they felt that it was a better location, that more people would see it there, and so forth and so on. But the Historical Society persevered in maintaining the house at its original site, which turned out to be a very good thing, because then by 1985 we were able to be placed on the National Registry of Historic Places. And had the house been moved even 6 inches, that designation would not have happened.